Hello, everybody. I'm B Milzabub. Welcome back to my channel. It's been quite some time since I've done much of significance on the channel, but hey, sometimes you just need a break. And in my case, it's a little over a year-long break. But that's how it goes sometimes. Tonight, and I think I'm gonna turn this into a 6 p.m. Sunday thing. At least until I'm finished with this book, is Read the Answers book, which you can see in the thumbnail. There we go. It's by Ken Ham, Andrew Snelling, and Carl Weiland. Not gonna lie, I've only ever heard of Ken Ham. The only one I know. Well, I know of. I don't actually know this particular huckster personally, but I am going to be doing hopefully one chapter at a time. Let's see how long this first one is. 9 pages. Okay, that's not too bad. We should be able to knock this out relatively quickly. And if you're curious and didn't have the opportunity to look at the thumbnail, according to the cover, it's the answers to the 12 most asked questions on Genesis and creation and evolution. Now, I don't believe for even a single solitary second that this is a very serious book. Who knows? But let's get into it. Chapter 1. What happened to the dinosaurs? A question that is clearly on the mind of everyone who accepts the fact of evolution as it is. Yeah, that's the first thing I think of when I think about evolution, is what happened to the dinosaurs. Well, the simple fact is we have a pretty good idea what happened to the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs were wiped out in a mass extinction event. That was not a global flood, by the way. Yeah. The best understanding I have, according to the science I've heard, was a massive meteor strike that destroyed 95% of the living population of creatures on Earth at the time. But hey, let's see what Kenny, Andrew, and Carl have to say. Their bones were so big that when they were first discovered in 1677 by Dr. Robert Plot, they were thought to belong to a giant elephant. The first name given to them was Scrotum humanum. Now, I don't have a computer, so I'm doing this on my phone. Apologies for any shaky cam going on. I don't even have a proper setup for this. I don't have a tripod anymore. So, yeah. I can't verify whether that's true or not. I don't have access to a separate device to look it up on. And if I try to look it up on my phone while I'm doing this, well, let's just say bad things are going to happen to the live. So, you know what? Let's move on. It was to be almost 2 centuries before the name dinosaur came into existence. In 1822, Mary Ann Mantell went for a walk along a country road in Sussex. According to tradition, I have a feeling this is going to come up a lot in this book. I have not pre-read this at all, but I'm going to guess that tradition is going to come up a lot in the absence of any actual evidence. But I digress. That's probably something I'm going to do a lot too. According to tradition, she found a stone which glittered in the sunlight and took it home to show her fossil collecting husband. Dr. Mantell noticed that the stone contained a tooth similar to, but much larger than, that of modern reptiles. He concluded that it belonged to some extinct giant plant-eating reptile with teeth like an iguana. In 1825, he named the owner of the tooth Iguanodon, iguana tooth. It was Dr. Mantell who began to popularize the age of the reptiles. In 1841, Sir Richard Owen, the famous paleontologist, coined the word dinosaur. Technically, dinosaur refers to those giant reptile-like creatures which lived on the land rather than water. The word means terrible lizard. In the minds of those who had been associated with the then recently discovered bones of a 9-meter, 30-foot long monster. Why monster? It was an animal. I get the feeling that's going to come up a lot too. With a 2-meter or 6-foot long jaws from Lyme Regis quarries of England, the name was particularly appropriate. Okay. Okay. Let's just move on. Because the history of this may be accurate for at least some of it, but I highly doubt that he's going to maintain any accuracy for long. This is a creation science book. And as we all know, creation is not science. But hey. So, bones, evolution, and extinction. Nowadays, everyone has heard of dinosaurs. From kindergarten onwards, we see pictures of them. And as far as most people are concerned, they died out about 65 million years before man appeared on Earth. This view of the dinosaurs is intimately associated with evolution, which is dogmatic about how life arose by chance, yet surprisingly vague about why creatures such as the dinosaurs died out. Dishonesty, right there. So, evolution is not a dogmatic view. I have a feeling I'm going to have to say this a lot. The word theory, in the scientific sense, is the description of a fact. It's not like, oh, well, I have a theory, as in I have a guess. No, a scientific theory explains a fact. Germ theory explains germs. Evolutionary theory explains evolution. This is not difficult, but someone like Ken Ham is apparently going to have great difficulty with this. So I have a feeling I'm going to have to do that explanation more than just one time. And to say life arose by chance is also not accurate. Saying that evolution has anything to do with the origin of life is also dishonest. That discussion belongs in the realm of abiogenesis. That is where the discussion of where life came from is at, not evolution. Evolution explains how life changes over time. Like here I am, a guy with no actual education in evolutionary biology or anything like that, explaining this to these dullards who would claim to know better than me, but and surprisingly vague about why creatures such as the dinosaurs died out. I explained that minutes ago. It was I am so bothered by this. Yeah. citing every possible cause from massive attacks of diarrhea. I've never heard that one. That's news to me. To meteorite bombardment or drug addiction as new plant forms evolved. How many of these things is he just making up? Like how much is just pulled out of his ass? I wonder. The theories of why the dinosaurs became extinct are often hilarious for their ingenuity. No, you know what's hilarious for its ingenuity is creation science. That is hilarious. I Oh man. A visit to any world-class museum will reveal abundant evidence that these dinosaurs really did exist. They did. The bones and skeletons which have been dug out of the earth are obviously the remains of giant animals that once lived and died. Their skeletal remains have been preserved in the rocks. However, while bones testify to their existence, scientists have not always made accurate reconstructions. I can't believe I have to explain this, but not every last part of every last dinosaur got fossilized. This is not difficult. Fossilization requires particular circumstances and the conditions for fossilization have to be right. That doesn't always happen. So for them to say this is ridiculous, yes, sometimes the reconstructions aren't exactly correct. Probably particularly not what we think they looked like with meat on their bones still. But hey, you know what? That doesn't make creation science right. In fact, creation science is just straight out wrong. Yeah. Moving on, let me find where I was. Everyone has heard about or seen pictures of Brontosaurus with its long neck, but not everyone knows Bronte was a mistake. Scientists admit that it was a mistake. Unbelievable. Scientists discovered they had put the wrong fossil head on the wrong fossil body. Brontosaurus never existed. For that reason, Brontosaurus simply doesn't get a mention in the New Dinosaur Dictionary by Donald F. Glute. I've never heard of this guy. But that's not relevant. What is relevant is that he's admitting scientists correct their mistake. He's admitting that science corrects itself when it finds out it's wrong. Is he willing to do that? No. Because if you remember in his debate with Bill Nye the Science Guy, Ken Ham said nothing could possibly change his mind. He's invested. More so than scientists, apparently, because scientists are willing to change their minds when presented with evidence. Brontosaurus actually is a perfectly good example of that. Moving on. It is important to realize that when scientists dig up a number of bones, they do not dig up an animal with its flesh intact. Duh. Even if they found all the bones, and they often still have only a few fragments, they still would have less than 40% of the animal to tell them what it originally looked like. As Purple said in the chat, there we go. No single specimen has ever been found 100% complete. Some extrapolation is always required. That is correct. And the fact that Ken sees this as a slam dunk against evolution and evolutionary biology and the scientists that study it is very telling, I think, of his dishonesty. But I never said Ken was honest. Did I? Even the presence of sharp teeth tells you only that it ripped its food, not what food was ripped. Oh god, he's gonna say that dinosaurs were the carnivorous dinosaurs were actually herbivores, isn't he? I'm predicting this. This is where it's gonna go. When reconstructing large dinosaurs from bony remains, scientists have had to make all kinds of assumptions. Yeah. So about that, it's an assumption based off of actually it's not an assumption, it's a hypothesis, which is an educated guess. You take what information you do have and you extrapolate from there. Dinosaurs had sharp teeth. Sharp teeth are currently used to rip meat. There's no reason to think that the evolutionary purpose of canines right here, a tooth that humans use to rip meat. Yes, it is meant for something like that, evolutionarily. Not divinely inspired. Cool. Likewise, any statements about what the dinosaurs did or where they lived are full of such guesses. Again, not a random guess. Like, Ken, you are so dishonest. It is astonishing. Nevertheless, the evidence is overwhelming that the dinosaurs were indeed a large group of creatures that once roamed the Earth, but now apparently no longer live on this planet. So what did happen to the dinosaurs? According to evolutionary theory, dinosaurs lived on the Earth during the Mesozoic era or dinosaur age. This is between about 230 million and 65 million years ago on the evolutionary timescale. Then, at the end of the Cretaceous period of the Mesozoic era, they died out. In August of 1983, Dr. Alan Charig of the British Museum of Natural History, London, and Dr. Beverly Halstead of the Geology Department, Reading University, seriously challenged every evolutionary theory as to why the dinosaurs had become extinct or even when they died out. I'm sure. I don't know who these people are, so I can't really speak much to it, but let's continue. This serves to remind us that when it comes to dealing with past creatures, whether it be the history of dinosaurs or anything else, a scientist has only the bones upon which he can speculate. He doesn't have a past in his laboratory. He digs up the bones in the present. Any theory about what happened to the dinosaurs based on bones alone is merely a scientist's opinion. Opinion. Scientists use evidence as the foundation of their claims. You can have a book. A bad book at that. Genesis 1 and 2 contradict each other. Right out the gate, there's a contradiction in your book. I'm just chucking that out there. I really need to keep my finger on the spot I'm at. I keep losing it. He was not an observer of the event, and he does not have the past against which to study or to test his theory. Thus, such study is not even scientific in the normal sense. Eyewitness testimony is the weakest form of testimony. So even if someone went back to the past, they would still only have that one thing to look at. Be like, oh, well, all dinosaurs must have done this because I saw this one do it. That's like saying I saw a brown cow in Sweden. It's the only cow I've ever seen, so all cows must be brown. Look, Ken, again, scientists use evidence to build on their theories. They use evidence for this. It really is his belief about the past and the attempt to explain the evidence which exists in the present. The only way anyone can be sure of what they did on the past would be through the testimony of any reliable witness who was there. Oh, like the 500 witnesses that didn't exist. And that is what the book of Genesis is. No, it's fucking not. The book of Genesis was written by goat herders. Admittedly, would have been the smarter goat herders, but it's not. It's a creation story. Every religion has a creation story. Doesn't make it correct. It is easy to test this claim. The accurate record of one who was there will always make the best sense of the evidence we have in the present. Okay, but Genesis is the claim. It's not evidence of the claim, it is the claim. You cannot use the claim as evidence of the claim. That makes no sense. But Ken isn't actually that smart, in my opinion. Dinosaurs in biblical history. Does the book of Genesis provide a practical basis for the scientists attempting to explain what happened to the dinosaurs? According to Genesis, land animals and man were made on the sixth day of the creation week. These days were ordinary solar days. Therefore, though, first of all, not necessarily. There are a bunch of different claims about Genesis, but whatever. There is such a thing as old earth creationism. I was an old earth creationist. I believed that God created everything, but I believed he did it over millions or billions of years. So young earth creationism is only one claim among many, not a very special one at that. Therefore, those dinosaurs, which were land animals, were created on the same day as the first man, Adam. Both dinosaurs and man inhabited this planet at the same time. No, they did not. They did not. All you would have to do is show fossils in the same strata as humans. This never happens. Why? Because humans and dinosaurs did not exist at the same time. Jesus, I'm a layman and I know this better than Ken. And what did the dinosaurs do after the time of creation? Like all other animals, they began to populate the earth. The Bible records that as time went on, the earth became full of wickedness. So God determined he would send a worldwide flood to destroy all the flesh that has breath of life in it. He commanded a man named Noah to build a very large boat, which is, by the way, according to measurements given in the Bible, smaller than the Titanic. To build this very large boat, which would take his family and representatives of all land-dwelling, air-breathing animals. No mention of saltwater and freshwater mixing, which would have been a huge problem. So that automatically, Genesis is shown to be bullshit by that, because saltwater animals cannot survive in freshwater, with very few exceptions, and it took a long time to evolve. Freshwater animals cannot survive in saltwater. You mix those two suddenly, there's going to be huge problems. There is no good evidence of a global flood. In fact, all the evidence is stacked against it. The Bible tells us clearly that when the time for the flood came, God sent two of every kind, dumb, unscientific word, of animal, and 7 of some, to Noah to take up residence aboard the ark. Since the Bible is clear that there were at least 2 of every kind of land animal, this must have included 2 of every dinosaur kind. There is no such thing as a kind in science. It is not a scientific word. I really hate that he keeps using it. But he's a dishonest person who doesn't have the first idea what he's talking about. Many people think that because dinosaurs were such large creatures, they would never have fitted into the ark. They do not realize that many of the dinosaurs were not large at all. A few large dinosaurs haven't been given all the publicity, such as Brachiosaurus, Tyrannosaurus, Diplodocus, and Allosaurus. Many dinosaurs were quite small. For instance, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Actually, I will try. Struthiomimus was only the size of an ostrich. I don't know if you've seen ostriches, but they're actually pretty big. They're not like T-Rex big, but they're still big. And Compsognathus, which was no bigger than a rooster. Only a few dinosaurs grew to extremely large sizes. I don't think Ken knows what a few is. But even then, even they were not as large as the largest animal in the world today, namely the blue whale. We come back to the problem of fresh and saltwater mixing. And it doesn't matter that the dinosaurs weren't as, like the T-Rex wasn't as big as the blue whale. It was colossal for a land animal. It is realistic to assume that God would have sent young adults, not fully grown creatures. But again, he's basing this on assumption and conjecture from a poorly written book by sheep herding nomads. This is astonishing. Since the animals that came off the boat were responsible for repopulating the earth, it is almost essential that only young adults, which would later reach the prime of their reproductive life, would be sent on board the ark. Also, it must be remembered that Noah's Ark was extremely large. Again, still smaller than the Titanic. Could not have fit every land-dwelling animal on it. And I know this gets brought up a lot, but how exactly did a kangaroo come to the Middle East? How did land-dwelling animals in the Americas come to the Middle East? Vast oceans between them. How did this happen? I don't think these people are genuinely smart enough to give these things consideration. See, this is one thing I hate about doing this kind of content. I get frustrated by the stupidity that I'm reading. Because this is spectacularly dumb. It makes no sense whatsoever. But hey, whatever. Where did I leave off? Okay, there it is. In their classic book, The Genesis Flood, Doctors Henry Morris and John Whitcomb calculated the size of the ark and the number of animals needed to represent all the kinds. Their calculations suggest that fewer than 75,000 individual animals, would have been needed on Noah's Ark to indicate that these animals could have fitted on only one floor of the Ark, since their average size would have been no bigger than a sheep. We are reaching levels of dishonesty again, because the elephant was alive at the time that the flood allegedly took place. You want to tell me that an elephant was the size of a sheep? Even a baby elephant is bigger than a sheep. Maybe not by too much, but if we're taking animals in their just before or at their reproductive prime, the elephant is not going to be a baby. It's going to be roughly full size. The fact that I am doing better as a layman with no classical training in evolutionary biology or even basic animal sciences, this is astonishing to me. The Ark was more than large enough to carry representatives of every kind of air-breathing, land-dwelling animal. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. To carry something of to carry every living animal, or two representatives of each, which, by the way, again, they're suggesting that the world was spread by incest. But hey, what does Ken Ham know about shit? So what happened to the dinosaurs? Genesis states that during the time of the flood, water covered all the high hills that were under the whole heaven. Any dinosaur not on board Noah's Ark, which was a land-dwelling, air-breathing creature, would obviously have drowned. Many of them would have been buried rapidly and catastrophically in the flood sediments and therefore preserved. Problem here. We have layers dating back tens to hundreds of millions of years. And they think that all dinosaurs died all at once. Just the lack of thought that goes into this is astonishing to me. Most of the dinosaur fossils we find around the Earth today are probably not here's the evidence, this is probably what happened. Stupid tool. The contorted shapes of these animals, the massive numbers of them in fossil graveyards, their wide distribution in the presence of whole skeletons, which show convincing evidence of being rapidly buried, all testify to massive flooding. Again, the leading explanation for why the dinosaurs died out over, it still would have been years. The fallout from the meteorite smacking into where present-day Mexico is, that would have lasted a long time. And not everything died instantly. Some of them choked to death or didn't have food because of all the sediment in the air. And Purple lays down another good point. Thank you, Purple, for helping me out here. If it was all laid down in a single layer, why don't we find trilobites and dinosaurs and elephants in all the same layer? Ken doesn't have answers for this. He just has, we assume, and probably. Scientists don't couch their terms in conjecture. They're like, this is what we have evidence for. This is how it likely was, based upon evidence, not probably, not we assume. No. This is the evidence. What can we determine from the evidence? Well, probably, we assume, because of Genesis. God, killing me, Ken. Months after the Ark had settled on Mount Ararat, by the way, no Ark has been found on Ararat. Just chucking that out there. The animals came out to breed and repopulate the Earth. Two by two, the dinosaurs, along with all other animals, left the landing place of the Ark and began to move over the Earth's surface. We have another problem. Well, we don't. Ken does. These kangaroos that I mentioned earlier, it would have taken a while for them to get not only to the Ark, but from back to Australia. It would have required repopulating to get to and from. And we don't see kangaroo fossils going from Australia through Asia into the Middle East. We don't see that. So what, did God magically scoop up the kangaroos and put them on the Ark himself? Or did they travel? Stupid Ken. It had been ravaged by watery violence. The water canopy, which the Bible implies existed around the Earth's atmosphere up until the time of Noah's flood, was gone. No longer was the world a greenhouse covered in lush vegetation. The massive quantity of vegetable material which the larger creatures needed to consume was no longer available in such luxuriant abundance. The world was a much harsher place to live in. I thought the world became a much harsher place to live in after the fall. I don't know. I guess Ken didn't think that through either. Where did I leave off again? The environment before the flood had been a favorable one. It had enabled many animals and plants to grow to enormous sizes. Most mammals reach their final size soon after becoming sexually mature. Reptiles, however, may keep growing almost indefinitely after that time. Well, I don't think that's right. That makes no sense. We know fish can keep growing, but even then, there is a maximum size. Goldfish aren't gonna become the same size as a full-grown tuna. Now, for those of you that don't know, tuna are actually quite large. They're not the little tiny things you see all chipped up in cans. They are large. And every time a carnivore ate a species would become extinct. Yes, purple is completely correct. But again, Ken didn't have the foresight to see this. In today's crocodile populations, for example, the very large specimens are also the very old ones. This is likely to have been the case for the occasional very huge dinosaur whose skeleton is found. The young sexually mature adults the young sexually mature adults ordered to go on the Ark with Noah would have been nowhere near that size yet. Okay, but Ken, you just said in this same paragraph, we haven't even left this paragraph yet, that they reach their final size soon after becoming sexually mature. You admitted this outright. They are near full size, if not actually full size. But you're speaking now like there was this extra time to grow. You have no consistency, Ken. There had probably, there's that word again, probably, been a much greater land surface before. before the flood, where? Where did that land surface go? There is no water dome over the earth. That makes no sense. We don't see this anywhere else. We don't see it anywhere at all. Period. End of discussion. Ken, you don't know what you're talking about, my man. Plants had grown in great profusion and had provided necessary food for all the land creatures, but now the world was different. The canopy had been destroyed. No canopy. Where did I leave off? The canopy had been destroyed. The world had been denuded of vegetation, which was only now newly regrowing. More radiation would be able to. Okay. I am not a nuclear physicist. I don't know that much about radiation. But to suggest that more radiation would be able to reach the surface of the Earth because of a water layer above the atmosphere, radiation can still penetrate water. What? Ken, you're not a smart man. Maybe listen to actual scientists on this discussion. Just a thought. Because this book already, I am a whole 7 pages in. Admittedly, I skipped the prologue. I don't have the interest in reading about his past or any of that. 7 pages in, and I've seen the words assume or probably numerous times already. No evidence to fall back on. More radiation would be able to reach the surface of the Earth, and even more atmospheric pressure in the absence of a canopy would be lower. There is no evidence for a canopy. He just takes these assumptions and says, well, the Bible says it, so it must be fact. Moron. Yes, the world was indeed a harder place to live in. The animals could no longer grow as well or live as long as they had in the pre-flood environment. There was no flood. There was no flood. This is a simple fact. Let me tell you where flood myths come from. People, even today, tend to live close to bodies of water. This is because we need water to drink. We need water to live. Without water, we die. And what happens in areas where there is water? Storms happen. Water levels rise. Sometimes it's catastrophic. We saw that recently in Asheville because of Hurricane Milton. It can be devastating. As to why so many cultures have a flood myth, there's your reason. Right there. Now, as far as I know, the only global flood myth comes from Genesis. Right? Because while this flood was going on, Chinese culture was thriving. They had a lot going on. None of them recorded a single thing about a global flood that wiped out their civilization. Didn't happen. Purple has a correction for me. Let me scroll back up. A layer of water above the atmosphere would have reflected much of the radiation from the sun, except they say the sun was inside the dome. Thank you for the correction, Purple. So let's continue on. The Bible records in Genesis 1:30 that when the first animals were created, they were all vegetarians, including the meat-eating ones. It doesn't make sense for them to suddenly change. in a way, you're suggesting evolution. If after the flood, animals became carnivorous, some animals became carnivorous, that would mean they evolved. Again, Ken, not the smartest man. Even the dinosaurs, lions, and tigers, oh my was my addition, sorry, were to only eat plants. That's one reason why Adam would not have been frightened by Tyrannosaurus rex. For even that mighty beast before the fall would have been a plant eater. The Mayans also did not notice all their cities suddenly being wiped out. True. Thank you, Perp. Before the fall would have been a plant eater, but Genesis states that after the flood, God told Noah that from then on the animals would fear him, and from then on man could eat their meat. Tell me, as far as I understand, the Tyrannosaurus rex has flesh-ripping teeth. That's the only example we ever see. We have no evidence to the contrary that I'm aware of. How is T-Rex supposed to have eaten vegetation with the teeth it had? Not a smart man, Ken. Not a smart man. Even for man, the world had become a harsher place. In order for him to survive, the once easily obtained plant protein. I have nothing to say about that. Beans have plenty of protein. Would now have been supplemented by animal sources. Man was going into competition with the animals to survive. One would therefore expect both animals and man would find their survival ability tested to the utmost. It is a fact of history deducible from the fossil record, from the written history of man, and from experience over recent centuries that not all species of life on this planet have survived that competition. While we realize that vast numbers of marine species became extinct at the time of Noah's flood, no. We need to remember that many plants and air-breathing land-dwelling animals have become extinct only since the flood, either due to man's actions or competition with other species, or because of the harsher post-flood environment. I need to read that again. That made no sense to me. Hang on a second. While we realize that vast numbers of marine species became extinct at the time of Noah's flood, we need to remember that many plants and air-breathing, land-dwelling animals have become extinct only since that. Animals were going extinct long before this alleged flood that never happened. What are you talking about? There is evidence in the earth that proves that the earth is older than 6,000 to 10,000 years old. The existence of lead disproves the old earth, or the young earth, sorry. Lead disproves young earth creationism. Disproves the young earth. That one element. Dinosaurs are certainly numbered among the groups that seem to no longer exist. Why then do people get so intrigued about dinosaurs and have very little interest in the extinction of the fern Cladophoebus? If it were not for their size and appeal to as monsters, dinosaurs would have excited no more than passing interest. However, because of mankind's almost science fiction fascination with the unusual, dinosaurs have become famous throughout the world. People are fascinated with the question, what really did happen to them? This is the third or fourth time I'm going to say this. A space rock smashed into the earth, killing 90 to 95% of all living creatures on the earth. That's what happened. If the dinosaurs that accompanied Noah died out sometime after the flood, it would be expected that some evidence of cohabitation of dinosaurs with man in history could be discovered. Uh-oh. Is there evidence for this? Yes. Just as nearly every culture of the world has similar stories to those in Genesis 69. 69. Many different cultures also have a dragon legend. It has been suggested that these are, in fact, encounters with creatures such as dinosaurs. Or, people are storytellers. We enjoy making things up. We make up plenty of gods. We make up plenty of fantastic creatures. Zombies don't actually exist, but hey. Why not take The Walking Dead as gospel truth, too? Purple says he's going to bring up the Inca stones within 2 pages. Probably. How many pages are left in this chapter? 3 pages are left, so he's got that much time to do it. Man and dinosaurs? If the dinosaurs that accompanied Noah died out sometime after the flood, it could be expected that some evidence of cohabitation. Oh, wait. I'm further than that. Okay. Yeah, okay. Here I am. For example, in the film The Great Dinosaur Mystery, produced by Films for Christ, we find that a Sumerian story dating back to 3000 BC tells of a hero named Gilgamesh, who, when he went to fell cedars in a remote forest, encountered a huge, vicious dragon, which he slew, cutting off its head as a trophy. When Alexander the Great and his soldiers marched into India, they found that the Indians worshipping huge hissing reptiles that they kept in caves. China has always been renowned for its dragon stories, and dragons have always been prominent in Chinese pottery, embroidery, and carvings. England has its story of St. George, who slew a dragon that lived in a cave. I feel like I'm watching that Megan Fox video again. Not the hot actress, the idiot creationist who went through a museum and was like, dinosaurs are actually dragons. Right? But we are not just referring to the stories dating back thousands of years, for even in the 10th century, an Irishman wrote of his encounter with what appears to have been a stegosaurus. In the 1500s, a European scientific book, Historia Animalium, listed several animals which to us are dinosaurs as still alive. A well-known naturalist of the time, Ulysses Aldrovandus, recorded an encounter between a peasant named Baptista and a dragon whose description fits that of the dinosaur Tanystropheus. The encounter was on May 13th, 1572, near Bologna in Italy. And the peasant killed the dragon. The peasant, with no combat training, killed a dragon. Sure. So the evidence for the existence of dinosaurs during human history is strong. No, it's not. All these things are just claims. They are claims with no evidence to back them up. Gilgamesh is a story. It was a story written to entertain people. Not historical, it's a story. We also have the description of 2 beasts that could very well have been such great reptilian creatures still existing in Job's day. The text records that God was showing Job how great he was as a creator in causing him to observe some of the most powerful of the creatures he had made. In Job 40, verse 15, God tells Job that to look at Behemoth. In many commentaries, Behemoth is said to have been an elephant or a hippopotamus. However, this description is unlikely since Behemoth is said to have had a tail like a cedar. This is flat out ridiculous. Now, if there's one thing that an elephant's tiny tail is unlike, it is a cedar tree. A lot of exclamation points in this. He is addicted to exclamation points. Like, I'm going to have to go through and count these because that's a lot. The elephant is quickly eliminated as a possibility for the beast. In fact, after reading this passage in Job very carefully, it is hard put to find any living creature that fits the description. The closest we know could have been Brachiosaurus, one of the dinosaurs. Leviathan seems to also have been some form of fire-breathing dragon. And Purple comes in with another correction, a tail that moved like a cedar, not the size of a cedar. Thank you, Per, for helping me out. I may set up extra live stream after this to discuss. We'll see. This is just flat out ridiculous. So many claims, no evidence whatsoever. But hey, who needs evidence when you have a book? So for those who wonder about this, remember the living bombardier beetle can shoot out superheated gases in its own defense? Why not Leviathan? Why though? This is just probably, we assume, why not? This is the least scientifically written attempt at a science book. This is the least scientific attempt at being scientific that I've ever seen in my life. So what did happen to the dinosaurs? I've told you 4 times now. I've told you 4 times. I'm not saying it again. Those that did not go onto Noah's Ark certainly would have drowned. Many of these were quickly buried and therefore preserved, and their bones have been found in recent times. Those that went to the Ark and with Noah survived in the flood, and after the flood were able to breed and reproduce their offspring. However, due to the harsh conditions, shortage of food, and so on, they have become extinct. So let me ask you this question. Let me ask this. God is all-knowing, right? That's the allegation. If God is all-knowing, he would know that these species would die off pretty immediately. Why bother keeping them? Make the Ark story more believable. It's not believable at all, but that's neither here nor there. It is hard to say categorically that any animal is extinct since one can't scientifically prove an organism to be extinct. One can't scientifically. If an animal's population dips beneath a certain number, it becomes categorically extinct because it can't bounce back. This is amazing. Geologists, the traditional declarers of extinction, have been severely embarrassed several times when, after having declared animals to be extinct, they have discovered them alive and well in environments the scientists merely hadn't looked at. Again, Ken, you don't know what extinction actually is, my man. We're bad at this. It is neither possible nor feasible to have one person at every point on the Earth's surface looking in every direction at one time. just to be 100% sure that there are no dinosaurs and that therefore dinosaurs are truly extinct. There have been reported sightings of dinosaurs even up to the present day. In Science Digest, June 1981, and as late as 1983, Scientist Frontiers number 33, explorers and natives in Africa have reported sightings of dinosaur-like creatures. These have usually been confined to out-of-the-way places, such as lakes in the middle of the Congo jungles, but descriptions given certainly fit those of dinosaurs. It would even be true that the Loch Ness monster, at least he goes on to say in parentheses, if Nessie really exists, is a variety of plesiosaur which still survives today. It certainly would be no embarrassment to a creationist if someone discovered a living Tyrannosaurus Rex in the jungle. It wouldn't even be surprising if it happened to be a plant eater. However, this would be a tremendous embarrassment to an evolutionist. Evolutionism is not a thing. It is not a philosophy. It is not a religion. But he likes to couch things in terms of religion or cult, as though his religion isn't a cult. There is no real mystery surrounding the dinosaurs when one understands the events that have happened in the past, but our understanding of these events cannot be based on the mere speculations of people who are alive in the present, unless they are based on carefully recorded words of the Creator God who was there. None of us has a basis for any real interpretation of history or evidence at all. 1. You have never once proved your God exists. It has not happened. Almost certainly never will happen. 2. To suggest that you need an eyewitness to know something, bullshit. What do you think forensics is? Forensics reconstructs what happened at a scene. This is common practice. You don't need to rely on a probably lying, possibly intoxicated person who is misremembering something. There's a reason that eyewitness testimony is considered to be the weakest form of evidence. But hey, what do I know? I'm just an idiot atheist, right, Ken? I clearly can't have any idea what I'm talking about because I wasn't there. Apologies to all the Aussies out there. That was a bad accent. I can tell that I am definitely going to only get one chapter a week. If that, because I'm not sure how long each individual chapter is. Let me look here. Oh, the next chapter is 20 pages long. Oh, 24 pages. Hang on. I just read 20 pages. Holy crap. I may need to break this down into shorter bits because I don't know. We'll see how it goes. For those of you who are curious, next week we are going to discuss continental drift and what it is. Who knows? Maybe I'll do the smart thing and find a scientist to come on with me because I'm just a guy. I'm just a dude spouting off on the internet. But at least I'm honest about that. Yeah. I don't know. But that was taxing. So I'm going to go. I'm going to relax a little bit, unwind, and try to purge this stupidity out of my head until next week. So until then, I will probably have to read up on continental drift. Yeah. See you later, everybody. Thanks for stopping in.